In a world where technology shapes nearly everything that we do, the line between everyday life and digital life has all but disappeared. And this week on the Rundown, we're unpacking the essential skills that every child and adult must master to thrive in a century defined by constant innovation. From foundational digital literacies to AI fluency, from ethical tech use to the mindset of lifelong learning, we'll explore what it really means to be competent and confident in a rapidly evolving technological landscape. Our goal tonight is simple: to cut through the noise, get honest about what matters, and map the skills that will define the next generation of creators, citizens, and leaders. Welcome to the Hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's good to see all of you. Good to be with you. My name is David Paskin. I'm so excited to be here on the Rundown with some good friends. They will look familiar to you. Actually, one of these familiar faces hasn't been with us for a while. John Adelson, so happy to have you here.
Glad to be here, enjoying seeing you all and looking forward to a lively discussion.
And I know that this is an area of real expertise for you. So I'm especially thrilled that you're here on tonight.
So it's always dangerous when you say expertise. This is an area that I've spent a lot of time in my career dealing with technology.
What do they say? What is it? 110,000 hours or something makes you an expert? What is that?
Oh, yeah.
What's the rule?
Yeah. I got to 10,000 hours in the saddle.
There you go. You win the prize. Absolutely. And Dave Troutman, it's good to have you back. How are you doing, my friend?
I am doing well. Everything's fine. Got a clean bill of health, scored well with the eyes, all that stuff. So
there you go.
I'm good.
Good. I'm glad to see you here. And Sky and Tamara and Tony and Lois, it's good to see all of you. How are you all? Everyone good?
Good.
Yeah. Good.
Fantastic. We're so good. We got KBH Media watching, and Gary is watching, and Talalak is here, and Vic is here. Talalak's there. Good to see everyone. Boy, there's a lot of news to get to. I only put 2 stories in the Rundown, but 5.2 open ChatGPT 5.2 came out today, which I still don't have access to. We got Disney and ChatGPT. We got a lot of news to talk about. Let's get right into it. So let's start in Australia with the first real social media ban that any country, has implemented. So Australia, it kicked in today. There is a social media ban, a nationwide ban for children under 16 years old. 10 major platforms: TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. They have to block users 16 years and younger or face fines up to $49.5 million. Now, I'm not sure if that's Australian. I'm not sure, is that per user or is that per how that works? But it's framed as child safety. So I have a couple of questions. Number one, how do you enforce this? I mean, if you ask someone their age, they just lie. Or what I did is your parents put in a fake age for you. Number two, is this the answer? We know that social media is a problem for children. Is this the answer? And three, what would you do if you lived in Australia? We don't have any Australians here, but what would you enforce this at home? I don't know. What do y'all think?
So we'll make Tamara our official Australian. Yes.
Wait, Tamara, I'm not the Australian?
I'm not the official Australian, but I did go to Australia as a teenager and was very surprised by the other teenagers when we went there. You could not get into a rated R movie, for example, if you were a teenager. And I, coming from America, was like, yeah, you just sneak in, like, who's checking? But they were genuinely, like, the people we were with, like, oh, absolutely not. We cannot do that. They could play rated R movies at home, and we're on, like, regular network TV because that was their parents' right to tell them that they can watch it. Regarding this law, though, I was one of the people when we mentioned this the first time that I totally laughed it off the planet and was like, they'll never be able to enforce it. And over the last few months, I've actually done a lot of research on social media and young people. And I think it's a great idea. And I think it's proving that all of these things, these companies have said would be impossible to do. The kids are logging on and they're seeing something that says you are no longer of age to use this app. And so I do think that it's important. I think that we're not talking about technology in general. We're talking about social media specifically, and there's hard evidence to show that social media itself is not great for kids. And having been a teacher in classrooms with cell phones, I will tell you, they're taking cell phones out of classrooms, and so many parents are complaining. And I'm like, you've never been in a classroom where a cell phone exists. So I'm all for it. I hope that it works in a way that becomes where they are starting to use software that that has proper age identification, because the thing that we decided in the late 90s where kids could be 13 years or older, I think 13 is too young. And so I hope that this is a good example that we're able to shift over. And again, not all technology, but social media specifically has really harmful, detrimental effects to growing kids. And I think it's a great idea.
I'll jump in here. When my son turned 13, I let him on the computer. He became a real good guy at that. And I warned him. I said, there's a lot of stuff out there that's going to get you in trouble. There's a lot of stuff out there that'll get me in trouble. I don't want you to save anything on your hard drive that you couldn't show in a courtroom. And he kind of went, what? I says, read up on it. It happens. And then he started learning how that works. And as a guy who was playing online gaming and doing that sort of professionally, he discovered, yeah, there's a whole lot that I didn't have to teach him. He figured it out for himself. But he was at a position where he knew I would support whatever he learned. And if I'm trying to ban him of something, well, then he's going to sneak around it, right? Sneak into the movies. Whereas if I just say, look, I'll help you understand all this stuff, but you've got to be careful because it's like driving a car. You're not the only person on the road, and somebody might have a really big reason why they have to cut you off. So I think, the responsibility again comes back, which is if we're paying attention, and for those parents who want their kid to have a phone, get a life. I mean,
Right.
excuse me, the kid should be on his own. The kid should know how to reach you somehow. I mean, when I needed a parent to come, they called out of the office, they went down and a
Absolutely.
responsible person dialed the number. So I don't see the advantage of having this tether on a kid. They know they're being tracked, they know they're being surveilled, and that just makes them unusually anxious about everything. So
And there's a
that's
difference
my-
between having a phone and having a small computer in your pocket, right? Get them a flip phone. They have access to you.
Get him a flip
Like
phone.
having a computer in your pocket,
Come
that is
on.
stronger than many of the computers on our
Come
desks.
Get him a flip phone. What kid is going to carry a flip
Well, they're
phone?
cheap. Dude,
Well, but-
you get
so-
a phone for like
PM
$85.
But that's why that law is important, though, right? Because it's the reason parents are having trouble enforcing these things is because all my friends are doing it. And that's a really compelling argument.
Yeah.
So unless you can agree as parents in your friend group not to do it, then having a law like this really does help parents make better decisions. And Dave, you were a fully fledged media person helping your child navigate these waters. And the average parent is not.
The PM said, start a new sport, new instrument, read a book that has been sitting there for some time on your shelf. By the way, also, remember that Australia's summer school break is starting later this month. So this isn't kicking in when kids are at school 6 hours a day. This is kicking in when kids are not in school 6 hours a day, when they have even more
Which
time.
is good for the parents. Yes.
Well, I'm not sure it's good for the parents. Now the parents have to actually entertain their kids.
Well, let's.
Oh, you
step
don't have
back.
to entertain your kids. Leave them to it. They do it themselves.
I'm not sure. I don't.
Let's
I
step
don't know.
back a second from this. And I have kids and now grandkids, luckily, and know a little bit about child development. And the development, both social and mental and reasoning, changes over time. So we have made rules that we don't want kids to drive on the streets before they're 16. That made sense because of any number of things, risk taking. We have laws against having students or kids, I should say, not students, but children, not drinking before age 18 or 21. So this is just another area where enough of society and the people involved in helping our children be safe have decided it makes sense to not have kids get a driver's license till 16. It makes sense not to have children drinking. It probably makes sense for us to put some social constraints on a technology that we do have fairly good evidence that, at least for some children, it is very detrimental to their health.
Okay. But so, yes, I agree with all of that. But I hate using the word but I'm going to use it. But my girls, they all had fake IDs. There was a rule that they can't drink before 21. Two of them now are older than 21, but they all drank. They all drank because that's what kids do. And kids in Australia, in this article, by the way, it's from Reuters, says it's just kind of, this is our 14-year-old, says it's just kind of pointless. We're just going to create new ways to get on these platforms. So what's the point? She's absolutely right. She's absolutely right. This is not going to stop. It will stop some. It will not, it will, interestingly enough, the kids who are really creative and persistent, they'll get through this. They will get around this and they'll find a way on.
And any kid can get past the technology. When my children were growing up, I had a device where it had a credit card and they had to swipe it to be able to turn the TV on. And this was how I controlled the hours that kids could watch TV.
So
the only thing that it did is prevented babysitters from using it, because they had figured out the system and gamed it, which I knew they had done, but it made the point. And yeah, there will be fake IDs, and there are probably some people who do fake driver's license, and there are probably some people who go in to buy beer, but it's getting harder to do because the fines that they level to the people. So society can control how much of that tolerance that they do. But I think the point that you bring up is really identity management. How do we really know who the person is and how old they are? I don't know if you saw the announcement this week that LinkedIn and Zoom did, but you're going to be able to put your LinkedIn identity management into your Zoom ID, and then you have a greater security that the person who's on your Zoom call is the person who they say they are. And it is linked with Clear, which is the TSA. Yeah, I think whether it's TSA or the government. So we are getting to a point where we're going to have more and more information in our identity about our age. And so then it'll be easier for these things to be.
Adults, children know, because children aren't in the Clear system and they're not on LinkedIn. And so I guess what I'm worried about here.
I don't expect them to be in those, but I expect there'll be others.
Right,
you
but
have
I
to
guess what
provide
I'm
a
worried
birth
about here is that
certificate to a school district. A school district has a license of students. So I think there are technology ways of solving this.
Right,
if we want
agreed.
To do it.
This is not that. This is legislation trying to solve it, and that's my problem. And by the way, I'm not like anti-legislation.
Oh,
but
how is that
the
different
idea
though?
That legislation is gonna stop kids from getting online is just laughable.
But here's the thing. We've done this in the past, though. When I was a kid, you didn't have to wear seatbelts. Most of us didn't have to wear seatbelts. And when they imposed seatbelts, all of us were like, how are they going to do that? What are they going to do? How horrible that is. Most people I know wear seatbelts now. We've realized that it is actually dangerous.
Yes, true.
Right. It's dangerous to not wear seatbelts. And not only do we keep kids from getting a car until they're 16, we actually require them to learn how to do it. We require them to train on it. And that would be a great model for us to help kids transition into social media.
No, we don't. Tam, I'm sorry. Because I have a daughter who just 2 years ago got a license. We don't force them to train. We force them to take a ridiculous test, which doesn't train them for anything. We force them to memorize.
So in California, You can't get a license without taking a certain number of hours in a class. You also, as a driver, and this is a recent change, and again, there was a sentimentality for me who was like, well, when I was 16, I could drive anywhere. You can't drive other kids under 18 with you
Correct.
in the car.
Right.
So we've made changes like this because they're good for us. And we have
Yep.
to get away from the sentimentality of, well, kids are going to do it anyways. And we have to kind of think like adults and say, is this good for kids?
Well,
And how many kids that we are losing to social media is too many.
Right.
And
Go
I
ahead.
think
Yeah. Sky and then Lois. Go ahead.
I grew up in Kansas. So as an agrarian society, we were driving at 14. Consequently, that the rules were available to the society that needed that, because people needed to drive tractors, trucks, and things, and to keep the family farm going. So society changes, transportation changes, education changes. So that's the question is, what is society's role in knowledge, wisdom, and parenting? So David, you're not wrong. At the same time, rules are for people that, what's the thing about locks? Locks are for honest people.
Okay. So, David, I have a problem with what you were saying about.
You know what worries me, Lois? It worries me
Okay.
when, after I've said something, people start their response with, oh. I get that a lot from people.
Sorry, I'll try to.
No, I'm
On the
kidding. Go ahead.
spot,
Go. Go ahead.
So, you said that your kids had fake IDs and you knew it and it was fine. And I think that having a law that says this is not okay can help parents enforce the rules that they want in their family. Now, if they say, I think that rule is ridiculous. Here, I'll help you fake an ID and you can get in when you're younger than the law says. That's a parental choice. But I do think it's better to have the law and then have people say, oh, you can't do it because it's against the law. It gives you support. It gives the parent more authority.
That's a very fair point. And let me just clarify that I did know that my girls had it. I was not in favor of it. I just lost that battle with my daughters and with my wife. I lost that battle. And the argument, by the way, and to a certain extent, I think you could make the argument in this case also, is that doing bad things, not bad, sorry, doing things that you shouldn't
Risky
do.
things.
Risky things, right? With the knowledge and awareness of a trusted adult is better than sneaking around and doing those things without that. So my wife's argument was, I know what they have, I know what they're doing, and I want to know what they're doing. Like, I would much rather know than not know. I would much rather have my daughter have her first drink in my house than have it out somewhere else. So,
well, and that's why England and Europe are such a example of this, because I know in Germany, it's like $3,000 to get your driver's license and a very significant hard test. But you're going on an Autobahn that has no speed limit with vehicles that go hundreds of miles an hour. So they don't have accidents. They just have fatalities. So if you're doing everything you can to protect that. And consequently, yes, the heritage of drinking wine in the household is an absolute heritage. So consequently, that we are bickering over puritanical, regulations. It frustrates me that we can't get back to, being a society that thinks.
I do think.
I remember looking
We have to legislate.
I do think,
David,
Lois,
I want to give my condolences to you losing out to your wife. And your
thank
two
you. I
daughters.
appreciate
Yeah,
that.
really. That's,
Let me just
we
say,
all feel bad for you.
Hold on
David.
one second.
Slightly
I just want to
differently,
say,
my wife's.
wait, John, hold on one second. I just want to say, Lois, back to your point that I agree with you. I think you're absolutely right that legislation does help support parents in making those decisions at home. I think I agree with you 100%. Let's take Dave, and then John. I'm going to give you the final word, and then we're going to move on. Go ahead, Dave.
No, I'm going to give it to John. I think
All
he's
right,
going to
John,
probably
it's
say
all
the
you.
same thing I am.
I'm not going to say anything that wise other than my wife's father was a printer. And when she needed a fake ID, he said, if you're going to have a fake ID, it's going to be a good one. And it was better than the real IDs they got.
Oh, God. Wait, I pressed the wrong button. Sorry. See, I got all like
I thought that was
frazzled because
news.
we're talking about fake IDs.
I thought that was high news.
John has something important. It's news.
John has something important to announce. Okay.
It's the Waymo news. Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of
Accidents.
children and news and what have you. So this is a little crazy, actually. There have
This is
been
crazy.
19. Wait, is it 19? There have been, yes, 19 violations. This is in one community in Austin. 19 violations by Waymos, which is the Alphabet robotaxi, of not honoring and giving right of way to school buses. Well, I have nothing else to say because Sky is like, you can't wait.
Well, I've ridden in the Waymos in San Francisco. They are also in Los Angeles. They are also obviously in Austin now. So they are in beta. It's like, I remember when the interstate came out, they had to make videos about people not picnicking in the middle of the interstate because it was grass. So they just pulled over because that was the heritage of what we did on a freeway. But again, in the evolution of a thing, this is what I saw when I looked at the news report it was a slow news day. It's
Really?
a really slow. Oh, absolutely.
Driving by a school bus with kids parking.
No, because I'm not disagreeing that is it heinous?
No, it's
we're
not
in early
heinous. No,
days.
I agree.
Well, I know, but again, that's the job of the local news reporter, is to sell advertising, and so they have to find something that's conflict.
But I think the question that it raises, and you described it right. You said this isn't beta. The problem with beta is that I get to opt in to whether I want to run 26.3 beta.
Yep.
The kids on the school bus, they didn't opt into this. And God forbid if someone were to get hurt, which has not happened yet, so I want to be clear about that. But God forbid, they didn't get to opt into this either. So in some ways, I think this is a question of, is it okay that we are beta testing 30,000 pound automobiles on the road? Lois and then Tony.
So, reading the article, it says the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has been reviewing nearly 700 Waymo-related incidents since January of 2025. So it's not just in Austin, and they just need to fix it. I mean, it's like, I think they should have fixed it after the first 100.
Yeah. Tony.
I keep going back to this thing about acceptable loss. I think that is a real thing. And, it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters in terms of what industry you're talking about, whether it's tech or manufacturing or whatever. There is a mindset. And that mindset is that there is an acceptable amount of loss. And unfortunately, until we make a decision that we're going to do something different about, these things, as Lois said, that, it should have been addressed a long time ago. But why wasn't it addressed? Because of the mindset of acceptable loss.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And it does say that Waymo is fixing it. They have a recall on software, and they're updating the operating system in the cars and stuff like that. So,
Right.
it's not as bad as we think it is.
Well, again, I'm not suggesting it's bad. I mean, thank God no one got hurt. I think it raises an ethical question about beta testing something in the public. And Tony, I'm maybe I didn't follow you exactly, but are you suggesting that
I'm
children's
saying companies,
putting children in
insurance
danger
companies,
is they're deciding that that's acceptable?
absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. with that.
No, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't quite agree with that
I
because
don't agree with
essentially,
that
if we
either.
really didn't, if we want to do what is acceptable loss, how many highway deaths do we have because we have speeds going too fast? And statistically, Waymo did X number of violations. I don't know if you know anybody who's been a bus driver, but trust me, humans do far more violations.
Thank you.
So we have no idea of how this is. I had the opportunity in beautiful San Francisco, you may have read the story, where the Waymo car pulled over when the police came behind him. As soon as the police stopped their car and walked up to the car, the Waymo car drove away.
That's fantastic.
The following weekend, I was helping
my
with a
goodness.
marathon, and we were supposed to go through a San Francisco fire training area where they had streets and hydrants and to teach firemen how to do that. And they said, well, we have to change our route because it's being used for a special project. The special project was there were 3 cop cars, 2 motorcycles, and 3 Waymo cars in a tent. And I was at that corner, and I got to watch them educate a Waymo that you wait for the officer when you're stopped.
Right.
So I'm sure they'll be able to fix this in some way.
Yeah.
there's
you know,
I'm not
there's
as
the life
cynical
in
as
beta
Tony
right there.
is.
I just want to point out Ken
Yes.
in the chat
I
is
just saw
saying,
that.
you know, the sooner we get there, the better for everyone on the road. And I
Amen.
agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. It's the getting there that's challenging. And I still have what Tony said. It's like stuck in, you know, I don't know that it's.
You know, you accuse me a lot of times, Dave, David, of being a little bit naive and
What?
kumbaya a little bit.
Well, that's not
But-
naive. That's just kumbaya. You're smart.
but I've been around a little while, and I've seen some of the
Some things. Yeah.
some of the ugly side of humanity, and as a person of faith, that's really what I have to really draw on, because what human beings have the capacity to do to one another is sometimes extremely painful, and we just have to accept the fact that there are some people who are greed heavy, and they will do anything for the dollar. And if that means that a certain number of people, long as it's not their loved ones, but if a certain number of people perish because of something, then they're okay with it.
Okay, we're gonna have to do a
Toyota
whole.
and all the rest.
We're gonna have
I
to do a
wanted to
whole
just
show. Wait a
ask,
second,
just
Dave. We're gonna have to
For
do a
my
whole
benefit
show.
as a Canadian,
No, I'm gonna get you in.
I
Give me a
want to
second.
know.
Hold on one second.
Okay.
I'm coming to you. We're gonna have to do a whole show on acceptable loss, because I mean this is blowing my mind a little bit. I don't buy it. I don't think that these companies are just. I don't think the engineers are just driven by money. But we'll have to do a whole show about that, because that's a fascinating.
Not the engineers. Not
Right.
the engineers. It's
Right.
not
It's
the
the
people that
companies.
are doing
Yeah,
the
the hot-
technology. It's the people that
I
are
have a
above
reframe
them.
Yeah.
of that too.
Yeah, David, go ahead.
And
Dave,
the
go ahead, sorry.
stockholders
Wait a second, Dave.
who
Go
we
ahead.
work for.
Oh yeah, all the way down the line. I needed to ask if American buses have signal lights and stop signs and indicators that they have stopped. So it won't be hard to distinguish a giant bus with lights flashing and a big stop sign sticking out that there's kids crossing. And all they did is miss it. That's all they did. They didn't have the CAPTCHA that taught the system which one is a school bus. And if they showed a school bus, they didn't show it from a driver's point of view. So I think, like John says, once they get into a training program, just as we do with small children about crossing the road and the rest, yes, then Waymo will know why a kid is on the road and where he's headed, and then it'll avoid them. maybe crash into somebody else, but avoid them. That's the acceptable losses, losing the car.
Well, so I do think that this is a you don't know what you don't know, right? So they thought they had thought everything through, and then they got on the road and found out they didn't think things through, and they're learning as they go. But I think the question is, like, we need to think about kids first. Like, that needed to be one of the things that they thought about. Why didn't they think about that? That's kind of curious. And why did it take 700 violations, right? So that's the acceptable loss part of it. As soon as you get one, you go, oops, we didn't change anything. We got to release something. That's what I think it is.
And interestingly, that's what distinguishes. I'm coming to you next, Lois. That's what distinguishes, I think, from my non-professional position. What distinguishes human learning and thinking and reasoning from the current machines is that if something comes along that we haven't seen, we can react to it. Whereas Waymo doesn't know how to do that yet. Now, we're not far away from that. I was actually watching a really interesting video yesterday where a reporter went into Google's DeepMind robotics laboratory. And a lot of what they're doing there is giving robots things that they've never seen before and seeing if they can, using machine learning, figure out how to manipulate it. And it's still very early, but it's coming. It's coming. But yes, it comes back to acceptable loss. As machines learn how to do this. Go ahead, Lois.
Okay, so we know that Waymo had trouble with the buses. We know that human drivers have caused lots of accidents. I think the thing that is important right now is to realize that you can fix the programming on the Waymo. How do we fix the programming on all those people that have had accidents? How do we stop that? And that's a whole different discussion, but I think I think Waymo's taken care of. They're working on it. And what are we going to do without people?
Well, isn't that what Waymo's going to solve, right? If we have driving cars, then we can get some of those drivers off the road.
Good plan. Okay, I think I'm done.
Well, and that's the other thing I want you to add to that that will go hand in hand with that next topic, planned obsolescence. And consequently, the industry is making sure that things break sooner so they can sell more or change, And now that life is a subscription, we no longer own a product. So again, it's for the best interest of the stockholder that things, break and change. And
can I
put planned obsolescence also?
Yeah,
in
wait.
that,
Okay, I have another question though, and again, maybe this is another conversation, another show. But now you all have me wondering. Tony, I think I'm the naive one because I get corporate greed. Of course, I understand corporate greed. Of course, I understand stockholders and all of that stuff. I don't understand it, but I mean, I understand how businesses are geared toward just. But I look at Waymo and OpenAI and Google, and of course they're in it to make money, but I don't think that's the only reason they're in it. I don't think Zoom is just trying to get as many people to pay for a pro plan as possible. I genuinely think that these companies are trying to make the world a better place.
I think that's a different argument though. So somebody comes up with a great product, right? And they sell it. And then they discover that there's a flaw in the product. This is where it goes left. After the product has been out there and they discover that there is a problem, they make a calculation in terms of, all right, at what point do we stop and fix this? And that's where the acceptable loss comes in.
Right.
So many people have to get injured or the lawsuits have to reach a certain level to where we will stop. That's really what I'm trying to get at. It's not that that people are not being creative and have a desire to create great things. You know, the atomic bomb being dropped on people in Japan was a horrible thing, but that same technology could have been used to and is used to create energy. So it's not that there is not creative good that is in the world. The issue becomes that people make calculations about when they will decide to fix something, because there are other people who are making money and they don't want it to affect their bottom line.
Okay.
And the benediction came early this show. That was amazing.
I Am Fatness said something really interesting in the chat. He said, founder CEOs believe like you want them to. He's speaking to me. Once they are replaced, it isn't about doing good, right? So there's this founder CEOs who really are pursuing a vision. They get it. For them, it's about doing more than just earning money. But then as soon as it becomes the grind of just going, then it becomes something else. Really interesting. All right, let's move on. Let's move on. We have great topics to talk about in the future now. Okay. What are the most important skills, knowledge, capacities that not only children but adults need to have in this new, it's not just more than a digital world, in this new artificial digital world of attention? What is it that we, I mean, is it, let me just, I'll give you a couple examples. Okay. So one example. So I've got a bunch of kindergarten through second graders down the hallway, and they have iPads, and they're doing a math program on their iPads called Zern. And we spent a good couple of weeks teaching them how to log in, how to type their name and type a password and then log in. And now they've got it. And that to me is an essential, well, it won't be anymore because soon you'll just touch it with your finger and then you won't have to worry about it. It'll be biometrics. But at this point, that's an essential skill. Knowing how to access information by logging in is a fundamental skill. Let's go around the ring, and then we can talk more. Sky, and then Lois. Sky, essential
well,
skill.
I was going to hijack it, but I don't know if okay. I was impressed by a recent podcast I'm listening to called Hidden Brain. They had a neuroscientist, a cognitive scientist, Phil Fernbach, and he wrote a book called The Knowledge Illusion, Why We Never Think Alone. It was the October 20th, 25 edition of that podcast. And I thought of you, David. I thought of, let's get back to the circle.
Yeah, I will. Tell me the name of the podcast again.
Hidden Brain.
Hidden Brain.
Okay.
It is long running and well researched and well documented, and not for the, and so it explores deep, good conversations like we try to here. But what came to mind was knowledge has been around as long as people, and this is where I thought of you, because there's a shared book that has lots of other books in it, and I thought of Ecclesiastes. And I looked it up, and it says one rabbi's comment was, they argue that it's striving for the total of knowledge is ultimately an exercise in vanity. And so that's what I thought, I wish I knew somebody that knew something about the Old Testament and how to tell me what that really book is. So what's the expert rabbi think about people that thought about knowledge thousands of years ago?
Well,
2,200 to 2,500 years ago, they were asking the same question.
They were.
Hey, Dave, you're on mute.
Oh, I'm muted. Sorry. Yes, they're So he fed this to me before we started, just so everyone knows.
Just a minute, so I
and just a
missed
minute.
kind of a
And
sneak peek.
my initial thought was, why are we turning to Ecclesiastes to learn about learning? I mean, I would. There
Because
are other
I'm not the
texts-
rabbi.
Right. There are other texts that I would choose, but I think that I agree with him with Ecclesiastes that thinking that you can know everything is a fool's errand. It's a fool's dream, and it's not the point. It's not the point of life. So you know how there are different there's Protestant and Catholic, and in Judaism there's Reform and Conservative and Reconstructionist and Orthodox. Well, I've been in all of those, and I've made my own. I have a movement of one, and I am an under constructionist Jew because I'm under construction all the time. I'm always becoming. I'm always learning something new. I'm never the same that I was the day before. And that's the point. The point is for us to constantly be yearning and moving toward and striving for that thing that we can never actually get, which is, as he says, knowledge of everything or complete knowledge, right? We can never get that. But that doesn't mean we stop striving for it. And so in my 9 years of higher education between college and rabbinical school, the only thing that I truly learned is how little I know and how much more there is for me to learn. And so I know no one asked me, but if someone were to ask me, David, what for you is the most essential skill or knowledge or capacity for living in a technological society, for me, it would be know how to ask a question. Just ask questions as often as possible.
Right.
And be interested in stuff. I watch the dumbest videos. I watch videos about I see videos of people building homes in the middle of the woods. There's a guy on TikTok. I think he's on TikTok. His whole thing is he goes out into the snow and builds like snow homes and then cooks food, and like he's just a survivalist. I think it's fascinating. I watch videos on anything so that I can learn more because I have so many questions. That to me would be my lesson from the ecclesiastical text that you brought.
Well, and that was what this social scientist, a neuroscientist, looked at, and he talked about the Google effect, that everybody feels that they have all that knowledge because they have the device in their hand, and it's diluted reality, and consequently, that's when things get scary and dangerous. So I look forward to a longer
and here's that
conversation
podcast,
about that.
if anyone's interested, hiddenbrain.org.
This
Looks
specifically
really cool.
was at the end of the Love 2.0, October 20th, 25. It's kind of a reflection. At the end, they go back and say, people have called in about a previous episode. We want to talk about that with you. So it's a nice interactive situation. But the
Here we
front
go.
of that whole show is about love. It's really good.
Love
Yeah, go.
2.0. Beautiful.
Yeah. So
Fantastic.
thank you for that
Awesome.
hijacking opportunity. And
Yeah,
Trump
Lois,
gonna
was
jump
I supposed to jump to you next, and then I see Dave?
Yes, you were. And then I'm just going to jump right in. I don't know if the listeners know that we on the panel get access to a document that David prepares for us with lots of information and things to think about. And the title that he gives that is not always the title he gives you when he starts the show. So just so you know what we prepared for, this title said,
May or may not get discussed.
This
yes.
is code for David.
Essential-
You screwed up.
no, it's
No,
not,
it
David.
isn't. It's
It
what
isn't
happens
at
every
all.
time.
Essential tech skills and knowledge for the 21st century. That's the topic tonight. And the first paragraph, I like the first sentence. Technology is woven into nearly every aspect of modern life, reshaping how we learn, work, and interact. In this 21st century, being, quote, literate, unquote, means far more than reading and writing. It demands a blend of digital, cognitive, and social competencies. That's the summary of the thing. So I'm going to say essential skills that I think that I need for living life in the future is I need to know how to log on. Yep, yep. And I'm glad they're learning that in kindergarten. That's a good thing. I need to know how to get information. I may have an encyclopedia on my phone, but I don't know all of that stuff. And so, how do you get the information you need? And how do you know? And the third one is, how do you know it's real? But the one that I think is most important for me is, how do I keep the part of my life that is not dependent on digital technology safe, active, available? I mean, I need to go outside without a machine around me, walk around, weed the garden, whatever. I need to have something non-digital in
Lois,
my life. There you
Lois,
go.
I can't tell you how much I love that. I had not even thought of that aspect of this. And what a magnificent answer to the question in this technological world. What are the most essential skills? Knowing how to get away from technology. I mean, that
Yeah.
honestly, that's a beautiful, masterful answer to this question. I'm so happy that you said that. I want to just bring in from Ken Jordan. Says the only real skill that matters now, I love this also, learn faster than the world changes. If you can't adapt, communicate, and think critically, the modern age, wait, I have to scroll down. Where's my mouse? There we go. The
Will
modern age will
simply
simply
leave you
leave you.
behind.
Yeah. Um,
I agree with that.
but I love learn faster than the world changes. Boy, that's hard
That's
to
not
do.
possible.
I don't know.
That's not
Yeah.
possible.
Well,
Dave,
that's an
go ahead.
exhortation. That's not a skill. It's a skill. You need a bunch of skills to do those things, but that's the objective, is to be faster than and to adapt. That's a key thing there too. I've always felt thinking for yourself is a skill I had to teach my son, and I've been able to make an example of, I think, for myself, and I don't let other people do my thinking for me. I'm a critical thinker. I challenge ideas and I challenge people's ideas. And that's an important thing to do. And in social media, that's an important thing to be careful of because people like to challenge you too. You need to learn how to do research, which is like asking the right questions, right? We had that earlier, that you have to learn to ask the right questions. And statistical analysis is more valuable any day of the week than just learning math. You got to learn how it applies and how to interpret it. And people are throwing stats and numbers, and governments and corporations and that will throw stuff at you. But if you can understand statistics and know what's going on, you won't be fooled. Experimental method to me is very important, that people understand how science works, not that just a bunch of guys got in a room and invented something. It works with science, and science has its own methodology. And I'm surprised at how many people don't know it. And on that note also, you need to know how the judicial system works, not just civics, but how does law work? So there's that. And then getting back up after being knocked down, I think, is an essential skill. So.
Getting back up after being knocked down.
Right.
Well, maybe we can arrange it so we don't get knocked down. What about you, Tony?
Oh, you're always nature will knock you down. I mean, sorry, you slip and fall, you fall off a mountain, you ski
Yeah,
into
it's
a pole. Yeah. So you got to be able to get yourself back up, get on the horse and keep going. So, yeah.
Okay, Tony.
Oh, okay. I think about this a little bit differently. I think that there is this thing that we deal with, particularly here in the U.S. about, and when it comes to education, and there is this thing of training, and then there is educating someone, and I think that I have been a beneficiary of being educated. And this is the difference for me. Training allows you to do a specific thing because of repetition and because this is the thing and you are trained to do it and you can do it. When you are educated, there are no limits. When you're given a certain amount of information, but what makes education different than training is that there is capacity for curiosity. And when you are curious, when different things manifest themselves, different technologies, different thoughts, ideas enter the space in which you are allowed to continue to develop and grow. And as already been said, this whole idea of never giving up on learning new things. I think curiosity is the way in which you get to not master, but participate in the new things as they develop. And I'm happy that I'm in this space where I'm guilty of being, a person who explores so many different things and is a master of none. But it keeps me alive. It keeps me thinking. It keeps me wanting to know the next thing. And I got all this technology around me right now, and I'm not a master of any of it, but I love it. And and this is the thing that my friend Clyde Lopez Waterman would tell me. He said, you find something new and you jump fully into it and want to know about it and experience it and glean what you can from it. And I'm guilty. I'm guilty of that. But I have to say that I'm thankful that I had the education that I had, because I grew up in the 70s and I graduated high school in the middle of the 70s. But I went to a school that had a component that was different than regular public schools. And what that was project-based learning. And so you had all the traditional things that you do in education, all the classes. But we had the spring, we did projects. We started school in the summer. And so at the spring was the end of our school year, and we did projects. We did plays, we did photography, we did bike hikes, we did debates, you think of something and we did it. And it was wonderful in that we got to understand that there was no limitation to the things that we could be curious about and learn. And I could keep, it was reinforced in the college that I went to. And just curiosity.
Yeah.
And so being educated.
That's beautiful. John, I want to come to you. But before I do, I want to ask a question. I don't want to answer it now. I just want to plant it in people's brains because I'm curious about this question. What are the essential skills that we need, and how we may want to answer that question in relationship to the story about the ban on social media, right? What are the skills that we need to be teaching around social media use or around more in general internet use? And I don't know, those two pieces are interesting to me. But before we get to that, John, so you're a professor, you're an educator. This is what you've been doing for your life. What are the skills that you have seen over the years that have been lasting and necessary as technologies have evolved and changed?
Good question. And I'm going to, what did Sky say? I'm going to take a little diversion because I read your notes about what the topic was. So I even made a little bit of a graphic here about technology literacy, and I'll come back to that.
Uh-oh,
But
typo. Sorry. The educator in me
it
found
may
a
be, it's
typo.
not mine. I was going to tell you
Oh,
this
okay,
comes
good.
from a company that creates robots to teach robotic building to middle school students. And even though their company is based on creating robots that can dance and have articulated arms, and the person who started the company had been building robots in manufacturing, and he decided he'd rather focus on helping kids learn about these technologies. But before I get to that, and I'm dyslexic, so I never see the spelling mistakes. I'm consulting these people, so we'll help them correcting it. But deciding what society should teach in schools is not only dealing with technology literacy, but when do we teach multiplication tables? When do we teach social studies? The whole idea of what the curriculum should be and what the core of knowledge should be is a very complex mismatch of all sorts of things. So I'm going to talk more subtly about the very simple, what is technology literacy? And before I go to that graphic, probably my biggest connection with this was when I was at the university. I left and joined a firm called Designware, and we were creating interactive multimedia, but working with Apple II computers, but we were working with Atari's, Radio Shack. And one of the things that was happening in that period, the early 90s, was everybody was talking about computer literacy. And most of that was defined as teaching people how to program in BASIC. And we created a different curriculum on computer literacy called Computer Discovery, and it had 4 components to it. One was a history. How did we get to the point that computers were here? 2, then we got not teaching them a language called BASIC because we knew that BASIC would eventually be replaced with another language. But there's certain core components to any programming language. So what were those core components? And then we taught the students with a little robot how to apply those components, like repetitiveness, X, checking things. So we didn't teach a specific language, but we taught computer language concepts. But we also had a whole section, longer section, on social impacts of the technology, and a whole separate chapter on ethics. So I think when we talk about technology literacy now, I'll pull this up and we could find where the typo is. But with technology literacy, Dave, you were talking about functional skills, which I think is probably spelled wrong. But that was logging on. We could talk about the ability to find and select information. I think Lois talked about that. I was talking about social cultural understanding. Earlier today, when we were talking about Australia, they were dealing with safety associated around technology. Same thing with WeMo. Probably more important is the critical thinking. But when you take critical thinking and combine it with collaboration and creativity, with the ability to find and select relevant information and put it in some cultural setting, and you have the functional skills to be able to execute it safely, then we have a powerful communication tool. And I should give credit to this company. This is the where learning comes alive, and that's the robot that they're teaching kids how to build and program. But even with building this, and this gets the kids excited, and it's one of the few robots that can actually dance, and there you can see dancing. But they felt as important as part of their mission was to put this in the framework of technology literacy.
I
Robotical.
love that.
Sorry, robotical.io. I'm just making a note of the URL. That's the
Great
URL.
little company there in
Robotical.io.
Edinburgh.
I'm sorry?
They're a great company there in Edinburgh.
Yeah, this looks really cool.
Can you put that? Hey, John, can you put that in the YouTube?
Yeah, robotical.io. I'll pop it in there.
Yeah, and here it is. Learning regression, Unplug. It's a great little company, and there are quite a few of these around there that are trying to figure out how to, best use technology and help it in the classroom. So they have their own little app on the iPad. They have a whole model for learning lesson blocks. So they're a great little company. They're a small startup, but this person decided he'd rather create experience for children than help build a robot that would build a car.
Wait, I love, scroll back up a little bit because I love right there, physical computing. That's fascinating, right? That it's not just about computing, and technology isn't just about the social media and the virtual meetings and it's stuff. Oh, I'm sorry, I should have you full screen. It's stuff that you can actually like touch and feel and manipulate. That's very cool. I like that.
And that's part of what we did with our computer literacy, is that we didn't teach the basic line 10, print hello, line 20, circle, and then you print hello on a screen. The programming concepts that we taught were taught having a robot walk down the field and kick a soccer ball. Because when we got into the application of technology, we realized that, yes, a lot of the computers will do leverage for our minds, but most of the computers in society is leveraging other things. They're controlling the thermostats in buildings. They're helping planes fly. And so this whole idea that you can't just simplify technology literacy to learning how to program. And I think one of the challenges, though, is, what should we teach? Because I would my kids are obviously computer literate. They got it at home. They were like the fish in the fishbowl, thought every home had 8 computers in every room. I wish they would have in school taught them how to balance a checkbook, or at least for my daughter. My son's pretty good at it. So, I mean, there'll be lots of discussions about what society thinks is what we should teach and do. And the little graphic here, you really can't talk about safety or creativity or critical thinking or collaboration without looking at other parts of the curriculum, other things that we teach.
I agree with that. I come out from a K to 12 background, and taught for 15 years. And I was in a really unique position because I started in first grade and then moved to second grade and then moved to fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, and then moved to ninth, 10th, 11th, and 12th, and back to pre-K kinder. And that was my teaching trajectory. So I saw kind of the same cohort grow up and then started over again. There's something really interesting about where we are in education right now, where we are continuing to teach content and we are not teaching skills. And as we move in from a society where everyone needs to be a specialist to where we are really needing skills to be more like Tony, where you're a generalist and where you really have a curiosity to learn new things and you have the ability to take risks, which is what is not happening in our current education system. Kids enter into it and we immediately tell them how deficient they are and how they're not meeting standards and how they're not, something that was inherently good has kind of really turned into an anxious experience for lots of kids. And I think that getting us into a mindset where we're going to take a comprehensive approach to what content looks like, which is exactly what John showed us. He's like, you can't just do, here's the skill of logging on and can you do that or not do that? It's also, how do you use creativity, which is both logical and artistic and can be looked at in different ways. How do you get that into the worldview thinking? Someone had mentioned Google, and there was a real promise of Google. Like, if you remember when Google came out, the promise of it was that we were going to really have access to anything that we wanted, which formerly we'd have to go to the library and have to do real research. And what happened over the course of the last 20, 25 years is that money became an issue, right? So I don't have access to everything unless I physically go and search that out because I have what is delivered to me, which is different than what is delivered to you. It is based on my algorithm that is feeding me information. I grew up like Tony, I had a great curiosity for things, and I had teachers who instructed on how to be curious and how to do research. My 7th and 8th grade teacher I had the same teacher for 2 years. He did a research paper. Our first research paper was 100-page, 100 sources and like all these things, but he said, you choose your topic. And so he really kind of leaned into Vygotsky saying, people come with the funds of knowledge and they're super interested. What they're interested in, they're going to learn more. And it was hands-on learning. So I became a researcher in the 7th grade where if I was interested in something, I would go and find that information. So I still have those skills. So when I'm fed one thing, I'm able to go, am I sure? Do I understand that? Let me go and check. But that is not how we are instructing kids. That's not how adults are handling information. And we're seeing that shift from us all going to Google for information and how people are going to ChatGPT and accepting what it gives you with 100% certainty. And because it gives it to you with 100% certainty, even when it is hallucinating things. So I think it becomes more and more important for us to be learning the skills of all of these diverse things, how creativity, how creative thought, how curiosity works, how the history that's come before impacts our thinking now, and how to be really critical and be able to do our own research and not rely solely on one thing. And I think that's a really heavy lift, particularly in public education. And it's going to always be behind where we are in the world because technology is shifting faster than we can catch up with it. And I think you're right. We have to be on it and we have to catch up.
Sky, you want to jump in?
I heard the music swelling. Yeah. It got big. It got really big underneath the ending there, Tamara. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Dave, versatility will be a distinguishing characteristic of a successful life, socially and career-wise?
Yeah, I was remarking on Ken Jordan's line on versatility because I think that's being able to be flexible. I mean, I'm married, everybody else is, yeah, and being flexible is a successful marriage. That's just the way it is. And we've got a whole lot of people who are anxious and concerned, and they don't want to be flexible. They think there's a right answer for every question, and there isn't. And they have to. I'll emphasize once again. The only way you know somebody else is real is when you feel their mirror neurons. Mediating this through social media or even Zoom, there's still no proof that I'm a thinking person at this end. So, we've got that corollary of it's fascinating and interesting and innovative. So were cars when we first started out. When I was a teenager, the highest skill you could have was to learn how to repair your car and learn how it works, and maybe you'll get a job in fixing cars or driving them for other people. But you had to learn that stuff. Well, today, if we're not going to have many cars anymore, that's not a skill I would get my kid to do. So, I got parents telling me that my son learning to be a video game master was wasting his time. And no, it got him where he is today. So you never know what the kid's interest is. Now, ironically, and this goes to Tamara, he was in a program called the Project Approach, which was a British tradition of getting kids together, learning what they already know, because they did learn a lot of stuff before they got to school, and then ask them, what will we explore? Just pick a subject that you can all agree on, and we'll go after it for the whole term. And all that includes math, drawing,
Yep.
All of the logical stuff they have to learn, and even art and music and everything else comes into play with almost any research pursuit. And now all of those kids that graduated, I want to have a reunion because I think they're all going to be masters at whatever it is they got interested in.
The best
Dave,
teaching
you just dropped
experiences.
You just dropped a new word for me. I need to learn it.
Corollary?
I tried to spell it and I came up with calamari, and that wasn't the right word.
Definitely not. No.
What is that word? See?
Corollary?
Gesundheit. What is that word?
Corollary.
I have no idea what that.
Corollary.
Oh,
He's Canadian.
Oh, you Canadians. I'm sorry.
It's the British pronunciation, you guys. Come on. They invented it.
Go walk on your pavement. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Dave,
All right.
a thing to look at is if you go to the Apple education site, they have a lot around what was project-based learning. And that movement started in the States called problem-based learning, and then they shifted from problem-based, and it's what Tony has. But Apple has been a leader in looking at project-based learning and having students solve real problems. And if you want to see some research,
Yeah.
the Apple education site has a lot of that.
The
So
best experiences
school,
I've had have been in project-based learning.
Right. In my school, we started with the idea of project-based learning. Then we moved to problem-based learning. And then I said, you know what? That actually sounds negative. It's a problem. So we changed it to challenge-based learning, CBL. And the idea is that there's a challenge. Let's figure it out. Let's tackle it.
Well, and I love that we had the perfect example just now of the exact same word repronounced in a different regional way. And so that back to my point was, Dave, Troutman, you completely helped me get my core of why I wanted to go back to Ecclesiastes or something old, 25,000 years ago, is we will never figure it out. And this is where, Tony says, always learning, always being curious. And so we will never know it all.
Yeah. Lois, go ahead.
So, do you remember when your parents, well, in this case, my father, because mostly it was men who were working and as paid jobs, and you'd go to school, you'd learn some stuff, you'd get out, and then you'd go to work. And you'd work at something and you'd learn more about it. Maybe you'd go to a trade school, or maybe you'd go to college. It depends on what you were interested in, what field you were in. But you would work at this thing and you would increase your knowledge and your skill and become more valuable in your work life. The older you got, the more you learned, etc. And then, of course, you'd have to retire at some point. Then you got to do anything you want. But that whole building up of a career, I don't think works in the modern world. I really don't think it works, because unless you are doing something that is physical, like being a plumber or being a shoemaker, or something that is actually giving you hands-on things, then the stuff changes so fast that as you get older, you don't get more valuable. You get younger people questioning, I wonder if she knows anything. So there's just another thing to think about.
Lois, that brings me back to what I see you, Tony. It brings me back to what Ken Jordan said before about learning faster than the world is changing, which is it's I love that idea, because that gives me something, again, something I can never achieve, but something that I can work toward. But Tony, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with what Lois said. My wife just retired from working for the state of Georgia Social Services, and she got in about 35 years. And one of the things that is interesting is that those people who are under her, those people that she managed, typically they'll last about 10 years. And then they'll move on to something else. That is the way in which younger people are operating. No longer do you stay at a company and work 40, 50 years. That's over with. And I think it really goes back to the conversation that we've had before about being able to adapt and have a variety of different interests and things. We are in a time where you can kind of do the kinds of jobs that you have an interest in doing. Before this year, I would have said that if you wanted anything that you sort of had a hobby about, you could kind of tailor that into a career. And unfortunately, I just don't think that is the case any longer, but maybe things will change.
That speaks to the nature of work, though, right? Because if you want to track the changes in like corporate America specifically, you have to go to like Barry Diller's shift in the 80s of what corporations were. We don't invest in our workers. And we are now at a point where every quarter it is perfectly normal and acceptable to lay off a significant amount of your workforce and relist their positions the next week for a lower amount of money. So we are no longer investing in a corporate area. And so therefore you do have kids who are coming up who are like, I don't want to be at the higher level. I would like to be paid for just going to work at a livable wage. And that's not how work is structured. So part of the way that our society's been structured is that you do exactly what Lois was saying. You get into the workforce, you have something that you become a specialist at, and you continue in that over the course of 30 years. And I mean, for me, I've never been that way. If the door's open, I have run in. So my resume is a hot disaster for someone who's looking at my age going, well, you should have this skill set. I don't. I'm super versatile and can do a lot of things really well and some things not so well and can learn them pretty quickly. That is not a valuable skill set in our society that has been built on this specialist kind of mentality. That's shifting now. And I think that if people are going to be, they're going to have to be more like I accidentally was that person. That's how I entered the world. If I'm interested in it, I learn it, I do it. And I think that's going to be the skill for generations coming up, is that it isn't going to be you learn one thing. Now, my dad was a mechanic. He was a mechanic. His dad was a mechanic. He started in the business when he was, 15 years old, and he was learning the business. But shifts happened in the 80s when we had the smog program come into California, and he actually really excelled in making that shift, because one of the things that kept a lot of mechanics from making that shift is that it is a test that you'd have to pass at 85%, which meant you had to read. And a lot of people in his field did not read. So he was someone who was always making those shifts and making those kind of changes. Now, I'm not sure, he went from being, someone who fixed cars to someone who diagnosed cars, which was completely computer based at the time of his death in 2004. It is completely a different world today. But I think we are going to have to look at really understanding that having a more versatile approach than learning one thing over the course of 30 years, not because that's not a great thing to do, but because we don't have a work society that supports that anymore. There's not an investment in humans to continue to help them grow and give them opportunities and guide them into someone who is an expert and a valued expert. We don't value that anymore. We value other things.
Not to mention, Tamara, that we don't even know what we
Right.
need to be experts
Absolutely.
in for the future. I mean, there's just no way to
But
know.
we're still training people on an expert model in a world that absolutely does not function that way.
So I'm got to call you back again. You're being too broad. You're saying we're all the same. We're not. I have met some folks. We had some plumbing problems in the house. I had some plumbers come out to fix it. That group of people in that company, it's a very small company. It's only like 6 people, but they're experts. They're wonderful. And don't forget that not everybody's in a big corporation or in a big university.
Right.
There's a lot of people who are doing small businesses in which they can be an expert in the field that they have their business.
I agree with that, but what I'm saying is we have been on a trajectory where we've been telling kids that their best path is to go to college to do these things, and we have not been prioritizing the fact that someone can be making a very good living being a mechanic, being a plumber, that those are valued positions, and and you're right that you can become an expert in those positions. So we have to shift how we consider what is valuable in terms of employment and in terms of people. And it's something we talk about a lot. How do you balance the excitement of technology with the fact that there has to be a human component, and we don't want to lose that part of it? And I think part of that is taking a more broad approach to saying that all of these things are interconnected. You can't talk about technology without talking about safety. You can't talk about technology without talking about creativity, which is exactly what John showed us, which is like this web of all of these skills are important. It's not a list of 5 skills that are most important. It is really learning how to become someone who can take on a task, that isn't afraid to try new things, that isn't afraid to fail. And that's something that we are afraid of. We're afraid of failure. And failure is where great things happen. And so those are the kinds of shifts that we have to make as in education, but also as a society. We have to get to a point where we're okay looking up a fact and going down a rabbit hole and figuring out whether something that I believed was true is maybe not true, because I now have evidence to back that up. And it is about versatility. It's about keeping track of things. And I think I hear a lot of people in regular conversations, outside of our conversations, where they are so afraid of AI, they're afraid of these things. And so their attitude is like, well, I'm just not going to deal with that. And there's going to be a block where people cannot function on a level that they need to function in with the way that things are changing. There's such a fear of things, and it's because there's not an approach that's broader. It's not I know this fact or I don't know this fact. It's I know how to handle something that I don't know.
Well, Rabbi Paskin, I need to ask your forgiveness. I have sinned. I started looking at Instagram this morning. I didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know.
We Jews don't do this whole,
what?
Confess your sins.
Well,
to
you
me
said
thing.
faith tradition thing. I was just trying to. I kind of homogenize the what was it? The unconstructionist Jew. Or what was the
right.
under construction? Deconstructionist.
Under
Anyway,
construction.
so yes,
I love that so much.
In that scrolling of research, I noticed the algorithms were really targeting me. And yes, to Tamara, your point, the conversation is no. Telling people to run after their passions is heresy, is horrible, at least according to this guy that I was scrolling past, and he caught me longer than 3 seconds. And he says, no, find out what you're good at.
Right.
And chase that down. Now, can you make a living at it? That's a different conversation. And that's the difference between, singing or being an entertainer for, as a way to make a living. It can be done. It may not be at the quality or level that you think you should deserve, but that's a third conversation.
Yeah.
So we have lots of things to talk about.
We have a lot of things to talk about. I want to take a moment because we're already over time, but I want to thank, as always, I want to thank the people who are watching on YouTube who are having a really rich conversation and contributing so much to this. And I have to be careful about this, because if I don't choose the right one, I'll get in a lot of trouble here. But one of the people watching is my daughter, Dahlia. Yes, she was one of those who had a fake ID, but now she's engaged to be married. She just got engaged to get married. So
Wonderful.
that's her beau over there, Austin. So I wanted to give a shout out to Dahlia, because despite her having a fake ID, she did okay. So, but to Ken Jordan and Tlalak and everyone who's watching, really, really glad that you're here. Especially glad that all of you are here. And John Adelson is here. He's got his hand up, so I'm giving him the last word, and then we're out of here. John, take it.
The last word, Dave, is you started with saying that you went through elementary school and went all the way through graduate school. And the more that you went through school, the more you realized there was so much more to learn. But you really didn't take advantage. You have a teenage daughter. They know everything.
She does know everything. And I know nothing. Okay, that's not the wrong photo, Dahlia. Now she's spamming me in the chat. That's one of your photos. This is something I've learned from teenagers, is that, or at least my girls, I'm not allowed to share a picture unless I get express permission from my daughters.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
But
Yeah,
this
Dave,
is one of the ones that she gave me. She liked this one. All right.
And
moving on.
Triple check when grandkids show up, because I whoopsed hard on that one.
Oh, yeah? Oy. Okay. All right, my friends. I'm calling it. We will be here next week, and then we will probably debate whether we will be here the following week, because we started talking about it last week, but I don't think we ever finished. But we will definitely be here next week. I'm really fascinated in Tamara. You were talking about the algorithm piece. I actually think that could be a really interesting discussion to learn a little bit about how algorithms work, and then to talk about the impact that they have on us. So maybe we'll do that next week. But in the meantime, just want to offer gratitude to all of you for being with us, for watching, for spreading the word. The rundown.show is where you can connect with me if you want to join our panel, if you want to have specific topic ideas. Please share them with us. Gary, thank you for that feedback. I appreciate it. And we will see all of you next time on The Rundown. Bye, everyone.